Good morning, everybody. We will be getting started momentarily. I'd like to ask for the members of this committee to situate themselves within the chamber. I'd also like to ask if there's any other members who are not part of FFA but like to participate in the dialogue for this morning's meeting. Please take a seat within the chamber. I want to take the time to recognize our visitors and guests here in the gallery. Most especially, I'd like to recognize the Secretary of Labor, Madam Benavente, who's here with us this morning. Good morning, Madam Secretary. Okay, so before we officially get things in order, I'd like to ask the members in the audience that, I understand that with the time frame, a lot of us do have some things to tend to during this time, and since the secretary is here ready for the start of this meeting, I'd like to ask if it's of no objection if we can start off once we call the meeting to order to head down straight to miscellaneous so we can entertain any questions we may have with the Secretary of Labor during the dialogue. Thank you, members and colleagues. Okay, looking at the time, if we're gonna follow Sambalinian Standard Time, we're right on time, but here it's 11:10 in the House chamber. So that being said, this meeting of the Committee on Federal and Foreign Affairs is hereby called to order. At this point in time, I'd like to take a moment to recognize the members of the committee who are here with us this morning. I'd like to recognize first and foremost to my right, Representative Ivan Blanco, to left center, Representative Tina Sablan, and to my near left, Representative Richard Lizama and Representative Joel Camacho. Sitting here as honorary members for this part of the meeting are our colleagues, Representative Edmund Villagomez, Representative Jose Tibus, and we're privileged to have both the Vice Speaker and the floor leader here with us today. I want to I'd like to state for the record that our Vice Chairman, Representative Lee Pan, is under the weather and he is convalescing right now, so he won't be with us this morning. And we do have Representative Ralph Yumo who will be joining us momentarily. So we move on to the order of business. I'd like to ask if there's a motion to adopt today's agenda so we can properly conduct business. It's been moved to adopt today's agenda. Is there a second? Oh. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the agenda? Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye. All those say nay. The ayes have it. Today's agenda is hereby adopted. Now, prior to convening of this meeting, I did ask if there was any objections, if we can bring up the items that we're going to be discussing under miscellaneous prior to what we agreed to act on during our last meeting. So I'd like to ask again for the record if there's no objection, can we move down to miscellaneous for the sake of our guests being here at this time? Members? So there's no objection? Thank you. Okay. So there being no objection, we go ahead and proceed down to miscellaneous. At this point in time, I'd like to ask for the Sergeant of Arms to escort Secretary Benavente to join us here in the gallery. I'd like to thank our honorary Sergeant at Arms, the Vice Chairman or the Vice Speaker of the House, for escorting Secretary Benavente. Also, I'd like to formally welcome Secretary Benavente to this FFA committee, and if it's of no inconvenience, could you please introduce your escortee this morning?
Certainly, Chairman. Castro, to my left, I have our Department of Labor Administrative Hearing Officer, Ms. Jackie Nicolas.
Thank you very much. Good morning. So, pretty much this is a question and answer forum that the members did request during our last meeting in regards to matters regarding pandemic unemployment assistance, which of course has been facilitated by your office. So in a little bit, we will be opening the floor for questions that any of the members may have. And before we open the floor with you, I'd like to take the time to thank you for taking a little bit of your Monday to be with us here to discuss these matters and to dialogue with us this morning. So I'd like to ask, just for the record, please state your name and title, ma'am.
My name is Vicky Benavente. I'm the Secretary of Labor for the CNMI government. And Chairman Castro, I just want to let you know I also have prepared a statement and some photos for the committee to review if you wish to see them.
Yes. We'll be more than happy to hear your words. And actually, I'd like to ask if there's if we can if you need to have those photos set up, or we can visualize them via projector Elmo, we'd be more than happy.
No, that's okay. I just brought a hard copy to be just passed around. Just also to ask the members of the committee, please note there's some personal identifiable information in the binders, and so this will remain with the property as the property of the Department of Labor. It cannot go outside of this house, and please do not take photos of the information in the binder. We had quickly put this information together this morning for your perusal, but it is not to be made public, if that's okay.
Noted, Madam Secretary. So if you so may, you did mention that you have a statement prepared, so I'll give you the floor this time to read off what you prepared.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee. I'm providing you some data, numbers for the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Insurance Program, PUA, better known. But before I do that, I'd like to share some pictures, which Ms. Nicolas will be passing around. Please feel free to look through it, and you can ask me some questions about the photos after my statement. As you know, we signed the agreement with the U.S. Department of Labor on March 29, 2020. Just days after Public Law 116-136 was signed by President Donald Trump. On June 10, the U.S. dole awarded the CNMI $70 million, a portion of the FPUC and PUA grant. In accordance with federal guidelines, we launched the program 1 week later on June 17, 2020, just a little bit over 90 days as of today. Before that date, Governor Torres and Lieutenant Governor Palacios had provided the CNMI Department of Labor with funding to quickly prepare for the FPUC and PUA implementation. The administration provided funds to retrofit our offices in light of COVID-19, immediately hire and train PUA coordinators, loaned out staff from other agencies, and supported the application process throughout the CNMI, including Tinian and Rota. Keeping in mind the threat of COVID-19, we tried to distribute PUA applications via online portal and also through a drive-through located at the department's buildings in Capitol Hill. Through our experience with the Disaster Unemployment Assistance, better known as DUA, in 2018 after Super Typhoon U2, we were aware that a majority of the PUA applicants would not have access to internet or a computer, let alone a copy machine or sometimes even a cell phone. So the department has held a series of community outreach programs at the Multipurpose Center with the Saipan Chamber of Commerce, the Hotel Association, NMC, PSS. We also had a series of distribution over at the Joten Kizu Public Library, who provided staff and their facility. But I'm sure it's a decision they've regretted. The department also had to undergo a series of training and workshops conducted by the U.S. Department of Labor, which was done via numerous conference calls, sometimes at the ungodly hour of 3 a.m., and also via virtual meetings using venues that I've never even heard of before PUA, such as Zoom, Teams, and Join Me, to name a few. The training was a requirement of U.S. DOE, something that normally took years to learn, since the CNMI did not and still does not have an unemployment insurance program in place, unlike most of the United States. So here we are, about 90 days into the PUA implementation program. Let me provide you some data that we put together as of September 15. The total number of Department of Labor employees working on the PUA program is 99, including PUA coordinators on Tinian and Rota. This also includes current CNMI Department of Labor employees. On paper, for paper applications, the total number of PUA applicants on Saipan was 1,716. For Tinian, it was 187. For Rota, it was 143. Out of the 2,046 paper applications received, we have entered into the system about 1,300, leaving about 700 yet to be entered into the portal. This was as of September 15. Today, 6 days later, I can report that we have about 300 paper applications that will be processed within the next few days. Online applications, Saipan, we received 9,666 online applications. From Tinian, 542. From Rota, 451. So a grand total of about 9,891 applications have been received. But please note, many applicants were applying both online and by hard copy, resulting in duplicate numbers when we were tallying applications each week. The total number of applicants that have been paid PUA benefits is over 5,280. The total number of PUA funds dispersed up to the week of September 14 is about $80 million. For the past several weeks, CNMI DOE has received about 200 to 300 PUA applications for weekly claims and less than 10 for initial claims. Every week, we continue to assist 500 PUA applicants in person at our offices in Capitol Hill. Looking ahead, the department is working with key stakeholders to revive our economy and to begin retraining our workforce to gain the skills they will need in tomorrow's job market. I appreciate your time, and I am ready to answer some questions now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretary Benavente. I know I do have a few questions on my side, but I'd like to open the floor for the members to ask any questions they may have at this point. So whoever from those of you from members, I recognize Rep. Camacho.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Secretary Benavente and your hardworking team for making it here this morning. And I also want to thank you because I have been encountering that issue with a lot of constituents, having to explain to them the difficulties that we're facing because there's a tendency to compare us to Guam because Guam has their unemployment assistance program in place for I believe over a decade now, if I'm not mistaken, and that this is our first time for the CNMI to encounter anything in this scale or magnitude. But my question is, for those those delayed PUA checks, the first question, I guess, to follow up on that would be, when is the deadline actually for when the funds will be depleted or?
Chairman Camacho, the deadline for applying for a PUA benefit is December 31, 2020.
Okay, so the follow-up question to that is for like the delayed PUA checks or the delayed PUA funds for certain individuals, like if it's, some of them have had payment schedules scheduled for like last month in August and then they were moved up to September. So like, does it go beyond the deadline if they're past the December deadline for those individuals?
Yes, let me address that. Many claimants have put on their application incorrect routing numbers for the bank, incorrect account numbers, and even incorrect addresses. Those kind of things will delay their payment online. If a payment has been processed, say, to the bank, and it was with a wrong account number or wrong account routing number, the bank has notified us that they will revert or return that payment back to PUA, and the next payment will have to be done by paper check. Something to do with banking regulations. And so that's causing quite a delay because of many applicants putting incorrect information online or on their paper application, which in turn we put online with them. Also, to that note, there are many applications that we have intercepted that have become fraudulent applications because we take the time to do due diligence for each application, reviewing each and every single line of an application, address, email address, telephone number, bank account, most important, the documents that accompany every application, such as check stubs, furlough letters, anything that has to do identification, citizenship status. And so these things take a lot of reviewing time. You may compare us to Guam, but if you say Guam and CNMI this and that, I will tell you that the director of Guam, Director of Department of Labor Guam, has told me that they have millions of dollars in fraudulent claims being processed because Guam is pretty quick to push the button. Not to say they're not doing due diligence, but I think we're slower because we take more time to review every single item on an application to prevent fraudulent claims from being processed. And I can tell we have almost close to $1 million in fraudulent claims that we have intercepted since day one.
And we thank you for that, your diligence and in your efforts in properly screening out those applicants. Sorry, my last question, Mr. Chairman. For the delayed checks, because I've been hearing that some individuals have received lump sum amounts. So for those delayed individuals, like the ones that are expecting a PUA checks that are maybe because of a lack of information or proper information on their part, will they be receiving lump sum checks as well?
It depends, Chairman, on what the applicant had put in their information. A lump sum, I think you're talking about, is the initial claim. So someone who files a PUA claim from March to September, or March to August, or March to June, will have a lump sum, an initial claim, which is a pretty big amount because it includes all those weeks, and is for PUA $345 a week, and FPUC at $600 per week, and so that's about $900 per week for those weeks from March to June or March to July, whenever that applicant submitted his application. After the initial claims, a PUA applicant, if he is still unemployed, will file for a weekly claim, and those amounts will be smaller.
I see. Chair, sorry. And I've also overheard that there's been some complications due to our PO box system. Can you explain to us how that's affecting the process right now?
There's a complication only if the applicant put PO box something or put PMB something and then PO box. The correct address should always be a PO box number, and then if they have a different PO box or PMB address, that should come on the second line. And that causes a delay if they put PMB first or they put SVRB first or CHRB first. Those checks will not be processed.
Thank you, Madam Secretary.
Okay.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Camacho. Any further questions from the members? Representative Sablan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome Secretary Benavente and Ms. Nicolas. I wanted to ask some questions that seem to be coming up again and again from the constituents that come to us requesting help, believing they've fallen through the cracks at labor. So the first has to do with issues just getting anyone to answer the phone and getting anyone who does answer the phone or responds to emails to actually be able to answer their questions. And I know a couple of months ago when we stopped by labor to observe operations, we did see the call center that had been set up, but I think that there were still issues about, just even having a voicemail where people could leave messages and making sure that people who call to inquire actually get a call back and actually get the answers that they need. So has there been any progress made in improving customer service, I guess.
Definitely. When you first came to our office, Representative Sablan, I explained to you that we had a call center that was located outside under a tent, right?
Right.
The elements are there, the wind, the rain. We had 10 cell phones. Today we have 20. We are having about 2,500 phone calls in a month in August, and now it's September 21. We have an average of, we have accumulated 1,200 telephone calls. The numbers are going down because I believe that more PUA applicants are getting assistance either in person or by phone. You'll see in the pictures, the call center has moved from outside to the outside of a building with an actual solid floor and a roof over their heads. Always keeping in mind the staff safety, we have to think, where are we going to put 100 people to process applications? Not in person so much as by telephone or online. So even today, you'll see the pictures in the binder, there's about 10 people in line waiting to process their PUA applications in person. And this is because some of those 10 don't have an internet access or a computer, or they just can't figure out how to fill out this weekly PUA application. Every week they'll come up and ask the same questions. How do I process my weekly application? And every week we help 500 people in front of those lines. So if you can see in the binder, you'll see the photos of day one when we actually process PUA applications in the middle of the road. So today, where we have them closer to the building, right outside of the building with plexiglass and masks and hand sanitizers and taking every precaution we can, not just to protect our staff, but also to protect the public that comes to us.
So you get 2,500 phone calls a month, 500 people that you help in person every day?
500 in person per week.
Per week?
Because we limit 100 per day, so we can actually adjudicate these applicants.
And do you have people who are assigned to respond to emails as well?
Yes, we have 3 staff assigned to email. Even the number of email has gone down from thousands to just several hundred, but that's every day.
Okay. And is that enough? And I guess the reason I ask is because I know many of my colleagues, myself included, we also have trouble getting through to labor. Either the phone rings without any answer, or we're told we'd get a call back and then we don't. And we're calling on behalf of constituents who are also having trouble getting through to the call center. So I guess I'm wondering if there, what can be done to do even better. I appreciate that there are more phones and maybe more staff have been assigned, but it seems like this is a continuing frustration for the people that we're all trying to help.
Well, I think from the sound of the numbers, the situation has gotten better and not worse. Remember, this is an unemployment insurance program that CNMI never had in the past, so we had to work out what was working for our applications, our applicants, and what was working for our staff, keeping in mind, again, COVID-19 and its safety and health measures. The numbers have gone down as far as phone calls and emails because we are actually helping more people online and by telephone. The telephone system that we have now, or have had since the beginning, is when it rings, it doesn't mean that the phone is not being answered. It means that the applicant or the PUA coordinator is already on the line, but you don't hear a busy tone. I'm sorry, that's just an aggravating feature about this phone system we have. It'll ring and ring, but actually the PUA coordinator is on the other line, or on that line talking to a PUA coordinator. And it takes an average of 40 minutes per PUA applicant to finish a call. Not 5 minutes, not 10 minutes, 40 minutes to an hour, because not only do they have questions, but we have requests to upload documents. We have to walk them through on the process of uploading documents, and then they have to go back to their employer and says, I need a letter, I need check stubs, and so the process has been going on and on. I totally understand the frustration of our PUA applicants when they say they haven't gotten a call back or an email response, and that's something we really keep working on every day. This is not something we take lightly. We're trying to help as many people as we can with the few staff that we have. And then, keeping in mind COVID-19, how do you house 99 people in 7 buildings, one of which I had to borrow from another agency, another of which many of the staff are sitting outside in the hot, the heat, the rain, the mosquitoes, the moths, and the risk of COVID-19. So yeah, Representative Sablan, I understand the frustration of your constituents, and I get that every day. My team gets it every day. We are trying our best, and so what can I say?
Do you intend to hire more people? I do recall that you mentioned there was additional federal assistance coming to CNMI labor to assist with program implementation, and this was a couple months ago. Are you able to hire more people? Is that something that you need?
We are trying to hire more people, but we are waiting for approval for additional funding from U.S. Department of Labor.
So you're still waiting for that as of
Yes.
2 months ago? Okay. When do you expect to get an answer?
We expect to get an answer when they are ready to answer us. We are in line with Guam, FSM, Palau, the Marshalls, and 50 states, and the states who don't have a UI program. And so the most important thing I think we should note is every week we speak to the U.S. Department of Labor, and they are looking at all the articles, all the press releases, all the comments online and blogs, and they tell me the same thing every week. CNMI Department of Labor, keep up what you're doing. Be careful in processing PUA applications. Do not rush the system. Do not make any shortcuts. And they understand the stress levels we're going through because they are going through similar things in the United States. Millions of out-of-work Americans, millions waiting in line for PUA assistance, millions still not being assisted because of the FPUC deadline that passed, millions. And so when we stand in line and we say we're waiting for approval, I have to really be respectful and say we are respectfully waiting for approval for additional funds. I can't bang on the table and say, hey,
Sure.
CNMI needs more funding.
But specifically approval for additional funds so that you can hire more people to implement the program.
That's correct.
Okay. And then the other very common question that we've been getting lately is people are reporting that that their payment dates are being changed without notice or explanation, and also that they're being transferred from direct deposit, which was working fine initially, to paper checks, and they don't understand why. It just creates more delay as far as they can tell. Could you address those two issues?
Yes, for the paper checks being converted from direct deposit is because, again, wrong account numbers, wrong addresses, wrong routing numbers.
But these are constituents who were receiving direct deposits in the correct
at one
accounts.
time, and then it got rejected the second time. Once it gets rejected, the bank will not keep processing a direct deposit.
But
It will
why would
stay
it
with
get
paper check.
rejected the second time?
Incorrect numbers.
Even though it got there correctly the first time?
That's right.
And that's the error of the applicant?
Most likely, yes.
And so once it's been rejected, they cannot go back to direct deposit?
According to the bank, they cannot go back to direct deposit. They have to be processed with a paper check.
I see. If I may suggest that that be explained to the applicants, because they don't seem to understand that, at least not the ones that have been coming to the
Yes.
legislature. And then what about the changes in payment dates?
Many applicants received a payment date notice on their online portal, and then they expected this, for example, I think they receive a payment date of September 1st, right? And they don't get it on the 1st. They start calling, why don't we have our payment on the 1st? Just because they have a payment date listed on their portal for September 1st doesn't mean the portal will process it on September 1st. The portal has a certain monetary limit, and I think it's about $20 million per week that it will process for PUA. It won't go over a certain amount, just for, for safety and to keep the level of funding at an eyeball level. And that's a security risk.
Okay. And are there systemic problems with the online portal that are only affecting the CNMI? And are these issues that are being addressed? Because it seems like we hear again and again about glitches in the system. And I think you mentioned, again, a couple months ago that it's the same vendor that worked on the portal for Guam. But are we the only ones really seeing these types of glitches that are delaying applications?
Of course not. Guam is experiencing similar problems, so is Palau FSM.
Is the vendor fixing them?
Every day we are talking to our vendors about all the OPCs, that is the work orders that we issue. Yes, the vendor is trying to fix them. 90 days into this program, it is not a perfect system. Since day one, we've had problems with our wonderful online portal. Lessons learned.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then my last question, Mr. Chairman, before I yield for now. We are also getting reports from public school system teachers that their summer pay counted against them in the calculation of their PUA, and they were told that they were not eligible for the full amounts of unemployment assistance during the furlough period because of their summer pay, even though that pay was earned throughout the school year prior to their furlough, and their summer pay is really just their regular pay that's stretched out to cover their summer months. Is this an issue that labor is looking at? Teachers have reported that they've inquired about this multiple times, but that they have not received any answers.
We have issued several press releases with regards to the public school system's lump sum, and we have explained that due to the federal requirements, any earning is an earning, whether it be lump sum for the summer months or earnings every week for regular school time. Earning is an earning. And so if they're not sure about their lump sum and PSS employees still have questions about that, we will be happy to answer that and address it in another press release.
Sure. Is that an issue that could be appealed, and who would receive that appeal?
We've asked the U.S. Department of Labor for guidance, and I don't think that's something that can be appealed. An earning is an earning, whether you earn it as a teacher, as a lump sum, as overtime, part-time, an earning is an earning. And then again, it depends on the threshold of the PUA amount. The funding is $345 a week. If you earn more than that, you are not qualified for PUA.
Thank you.
If I could just add to the question
Sure.
about appeals, I am the Administrative Hearing Officer at the Department of Labor, so I receive and review PUA appeals. With respect to your question regarding appeals, if someone disagrees with the determination issued by either our Benefit Payment Control Unit or our PUA Center, then they would file their appeal with my office, the Administrative Hearing Office. However, if the question was more of with regards to appealing to the law, that is what Ms. Benavente was speaking to. However, I will apply the applicable law, but if someone disagrees, they can always file an appeal, so I would not discourage anyone from doing that.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Nicolas. I yield, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Rep. Sablan. I do want to remind the members that in the event that the first round from the members of FFA ceases and we entertain questions from honorary members, we will entertain a second round should need be. So I guess we got a line forming in regards to Q&A. So first I'll recognize Rep. Blanco, and then afterwards the floor will go to Rep. Lezama.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Good morning, Madam Secretary, and your team.
Good morning, Chairman.
But has the Department of Labor received any PUA fraud protection grant? If so, how much?
We are working on applying for a grant for fraudulent claims processing. Yes, that is something that was just brought to our attention a week ago.
Okay, thank you. My second question, I hear that the PUA payments are in the higher amounts. What's the average payment?
It's between $10,000 and $15,000 for an initial claim payment.
Okay, so what will be your message to recipients of these amounts?
Save
huge
that
amounts?
money. We don't know what's going to happen after December 2020.
Thank you, Chairman. I yield. Thank you, Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Rep. Blancos. Rep. Lezama, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. And good morning, Madam or Secretary Benavente. When the person come into the office, do you give him the claim number or you use the last four of the Social Security number? How is that? How do you provide the applicants as a number that they can call in to track down the application? Do you give them a claim number?
No, Representative Lezama, there is what's called a Benefits Rights Information Handbook for every application, hard copy and online. The instructions are clear. It's the claimant who signs on, obtains a username, a password, and a claim number will be assigned to the claimant. It is not given by the Department of Labor.
No, I'm talking about the person that comes into your office because they don't have access to internet. What kind of prove that they came into you? Because I'm going to come into the next question. How do you do that? Do you give them a sequence number, a claim number, or do you go by the Social Security number of the...
We assist the claimant get online if
Okay.
they come to us
Okay.
in person.
Then that
Yes,
answers my
and
question.
that is what they will receive, their own claim number using their own personal identifiable information.
Then that answered my question. My next one is that there's so many phones coming into the office and a lot of them are not being answered. Can you use one of those lines, a recording, say this claim number is now under process? given the idea of that person that is paperwork or his application?
Representative Lizama, did you see the binder?
Yes.
Okay, in
The
the
login.
month of June and July, thousands of calls, thousands of emails. We record everything that the applicant is telling us. We try to get to every single one of them in time. Yes, we do record everything.
Okay, so do you have an access to a recording that tells, oh, my number, for example, 150? Your number 150 is now under process. It's in a databases or whatever it is. That tells the applicant. So they don't have to call their representative and ask us to help them. Why can't you use one of those phones for that purposes only?
Oh, I see, you're talking about an electronic recording. Okay, no, each case is very different. It really depends. Some applicants have different reasons or different issues, different problems, different challenges. And so we've never really used a recording to say, hi, this is the PUA call center, your claim number 999, and you're going to be seen or helped on September 28, 2020, nothing like that. We try to address each applicant by telephone or in person.
I hear back.
Thank you, Rep. Lizama. I'd like to recognize the presence of Member Representative Ralph Humol. Since this is the first round for members, I'd like to ask if you have any questions for the Secretary this time. Okay, at this point in time, the Chair will entertain questions from our honorary members this morning. So to those sitting here in an honorary capacity, the floor is open for your questions. Recognize Repetibus.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you again, Madam Vicky, for your presence here to answer our questions. I just have this question that I would like to ask. It's regarding the, how do I say it, CWs, no? So there's this C11 and C09. I'm not sure if you can answer that, but maybe you might be familiar with it. There's some that quote and they're asking, can you try and explain the difference between the C11 and C9? Because accordingly, the C11, they get to receive the PUA, while C09, they're not eligible. Can you just share if you have an idea?
One moment, please, Chairman Ujbis.
Maybe let me just, okay, the CW, that's the employment authorization, this is for aliens with minor USA citizen kids, while the CO9, that's the employment authorization for parents with 21-year-old citizen kids.
So put it simply, PUA is only for eligible U.S. citizens and qualified aliens. EADs with CO9 status are not eligible for PUA benefits. CWs are not eligible for PUA benefits, and I'm just trying to look up C11.
Okay, yeah, C11 is alien with minor USA citizen kids.
Then they are not qualified because that first word, alien.
So as long as you're a CW, regardless whether you have a U.S. citizen kids or a minor, you're not eligible as long as you're CW.
If your status is CW, you are not a qualified alien. You are not qualified for PUA, not eligible for PUA.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Maybe I'll mute for now, Chairman.
Thank you, Repetibus. Any further questions to our honorary members or from our honorary members? I recognize the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Madam Secretary Benavente. The question posed by Repetibus, only U.S. citizen is qualified for applying PUA.
Only U.S. citizens and qualified aliens are eligible for PUA benefits.
Qualified aliens as if green card holders?
Correct. Permanent residents, green card holders, correct. And certain categories of EAD holders.
Okay, EAD. Are there instances that an applicant of the Commonwealth, when they receive their, it shows that they received through net to bank that it was approved by Guam, PUA. It reflects that they're approved by Guam, PUA. Is that happening?
Yes, that's another issue, Chairman. Many pool applicants in the CNMI had applied using Hire Guam's net website by mistake. And so when they were paid by Hire Guam or Pool Guam benefits, we had to work with Guam Department of Labor to reverse those charges, and actually work with the Bank of Guam as well to see what was the system we were going to use. It's not as simple as just pressing a button and reversing it back to Guam DOE, and then pressing another button and it goes to CNMI PUA or CNMI DOE. There are many things we had to do, technical issues that had to be worked out.
Okay. So you have encountered those, some applicants are being approved by Guam, PUA.
Yes, sir.
And those that are received through net to bank are being held by the banks, or like as you mentioned before, those that are not complete or were mistaken, they're returned to the PUA account in Saipan.
That's correct. Also, I should note that if the PUA applicant had a relationship with Guam Department of Labor, they would already be on Guam's Hire Guam portal. And so that was some confusing technical issues we had to deal with. Many of our applicants had already an ID on Hire Guam portal, and when they applied for PUA, the system already had their SS number and their name, and so it processed them out of Guam PUA.
Thank you for that response. My last question is, for those applicants that have claim numbers and were also made appointments and with your office, and they were responded that their application is clear and just awaiting for payment. How do they verify again, like if a month or two? So my question would be, if your applicant is clear with your office, there's no guarantee time frame that you can assure them that payment will be coming out?
Well, Chairman, they're supposed to get an online portal determination notice of approval or notice of denial. After they receive that notice, a payment should be processed within 7 to 10 working business days. That's in a perfect world.
Okay, so with the with your statements earlier that you guys were catching some fraudulent claims, how are you guys? How much? How many of these applicants are here in the CNMI that you have caught that you were able to get the funding back, or for those that you haven't get the funding back, how many of these applicants are?
Luckily, all of the fraudulent claims were located outside of the CNMI. All of them has U.S. addresses. All of them have red flags, as we call them, peculiar email addresses or addresses outside of the CNMI is the most common. If we see that someone is living in the United States and applying for Hire Marianas, that's definitely a red flag, and we intercept that and stop the payment right away until we can verify if the applicant is truly a CNMI applicant.
Thank you for that response. I yield for now, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Floor Leader. Any questions? Well, first, do any further questions from our honorary members? I'd like to take the time to recognize Rep. Benavente. After Rep. Benavente yields, the second round for the members of FFA will begin with Rep. Lizama opening that round. So, Rep. Benavente, thank you for joining us. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman. To the Secretary, the terminating date to file the PUA is basically on July, right?
I'm sorry, Chairman, I cannot hear you.
Is the terminating date for filing the PUA application in July or the last part of July?
No, Representative Benavente, the last date is in December for PUA.
Okay.
I think you're referring to the FPUC benefit, which was supposed to expire in July.
Okay. So let's say that you file, and because based on the information that I was getting from some of my constituents, they have mentioned that, they gave them a terminating date that they have to file that application prior to the July 30th or 31st. With that said, they submitted their application and everything, and they had it on time. They said they had it on time. Unfortunately, there was no any kind of correspondence or information relative to the situations of their existing application that is still pending with the Department of Labor. So basically, that's why just this morning they have mentioned again, and I came up. There were 2 individuals that addressed this issue that are still pending, and they were wondering why. One individual, he said that they were supposed to put it into his account. They told him that they were supposed to put it into his direct deposit. Unfortunately, they took back that information, and they said that they were going to issue a paper check. So that's why I am trying to find out some information with regards to how is that, inconsistency or not really being informed as far as the recipients are, the recipients of the applicants, I would say. I just kind of want to find that out and see where do we go from here.
May I ask Representative Benavente, have those 2 PUA applicants tried contacting the Department of Labor through phone?
And they have attempted, but unfortunately they were not able to communicate with.
May I ask, have they tried contacting the PUA Labor Department by email?
And they did, but it's showing on the computer that it's they're still pending resolution with regards to their application.
And may I ask, has that applicant tried contacting Dole in person?
I don't think she did try to contact somebody in person, but if there's any individual that you have your office of a line, so this individual will more or less be responsible to cater for those confused applicants that are still pending, just to avoid animosity and stuff like that within our community, and all this misinformation type stuff. I think it will be best if we can all work together in communicating so we can more or less help each other. That's basically what I'm trying to do, is to try to share with you, so maybe we can come to a amicable solution on how we resolve this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Benavente. Okay, we'll entertain one more question before we hit the second round. So, Rep. Babalta, if you saw me.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Secretary, for being here with us today. Our office receives requests for assisting applicants at the community level, for example, at community or youth centers. And I know I spoke with you about this before. Can you comment on whether this would be possible now? And if not, why or why not?
In my opening remarks, Representative Babalta, we mentioned our outreach, and we did go out to the multipurpose center. We tried distribution of PUA applications at the Carolinian Affairs Office. We tried distribution at certain venues that we found it's not conducive to processing PUA, because there are many questions per applicant. And we have very limited manpower at that time when we first started. Yes, we have 99 people working on PUA now, but still, going out there into the community, exposing ourselves to the threat or the risk of COVID-19, I will not allow it. We will stay at the PUA headquarters in Capitol Hill for two reasons. Number one, the U.S. Department of Labor has always advised us to protect the integrity of the program and not to have applications going out north and south of the island. Keeping it in one area, protecting all of these applicants' personal identifiable information is very, very important. As you know, technology nowadays, you just take a picture of an SS number and there you have it. You become that person with that SS number. So two reasons, health and safety, and also for the risk of security for these PUA applicants. So as far as outreach, we would prefer to stay up at Capitol Hill, and we do have 7 buildings with 99 persons helping out in either by phone, by email, or in person.
Thank you. In this very stressful environment, for you and your team assisting our community members, facing frustrated and sometimes angry people, my last question is, how are you and how are your team, what kind of resources are available for their safety, for their well-being during this time and maybe after hours?
Thank you for showing your caring. Truly, gentlemen, ladies, the PUA team has been under a lot of stress for the last 90 days. You won't believe the language that has been used upon us in person and on the phone. Ridiculous accusations, just outright profanity. I can't believe this comes from people on our island because generally our people are kind and generous and patient. But I understand the stresses that our people are going through because I can hear it every day. Atrasao, idibi, atrasao, ibanko, atrasao, itododo. I understand that. And then I always have to say, let us do our job properly so we can keep PUA coming. And not just PUA. Any federal public benefit has to be done correctly, processed. And so with our team, we have daily briefings. We also have weekly department briefings. We have a lot of back and forth talking about what happened during your day. What was the best thing that happened today? What was the worst thing? And many times the worst things come from our own public officials. Sad to say. Instead of using your powerful voice to help us and support us and call us and ask us what we need, some of these public officials have the audacity to go and use social media as a political tool. And I'm losing my voice because I'm getting emotional. You can tell I'm under stress, yeah? But I'm grateful to this PUA team. They have been under a lot of stress. They have heard from their families and friends by phone, by email, coming up to their house in the middle of the night, early in the morning. Can you help me? Can you help me? And they know they can't do that at home. They have to come to the office, help them online, stay within the legal boundaries of the federal program. Let's all do our job and help each other. Use your voices to help us. Many of you have called to offer me water, cases of water, tents, benches. I appreciate that. But there are a few of you who have used that social media tool to a very, to the point of letting my staff become more depressed, more demoralized. And I tell them, no, this is a political season. Don't pay attention to that. Do your job. Do it as best as you can. Disregard the negative talk out there. Just do your best as you can. And for that, I'm so grateful to the Department of Labor. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary. I'm sure we are all on the same page, wanting to assist our community, and we are very grateful for you and your team, your hard work. Thank you, Chairman. I yield.
Thank you, Rep. Babalta. Before we proceed, just want to just give that window in case there's any more questions from our honorary members before we start the second round. Okay. Recognize the Vice Speaker, then followed by that Representative Lizama.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Madam Secretary and your staff, thank you very much for updating us on the status of the PUA or the PUC, and you also mentioned about DOA. I'm very proud that within less than 6 months, you have assisted nearly 10,000 of our folks and distributed a huge amount of federal funds. You mentioned 70. I'm pretty sure it's going to go higher. Just imagine, $70 million has been distributed, and that helps our economy. With our situation, furlough, and everything else, fighting the COVID-19, this is a tremendous help for our Commonwealth. And I understand your frustration. And I'm glad that you mentioned that some of our public officials are hampering on your operation. There's no way that that would work. As an elected individuals, we should not use social media to taint the progress that Department of Labor, CNMI, has done. It's very sad. And I hope, from my heart, I want to extend my appreciation for your good leadership and for your staff that are really, really wanted to help our great people of the Commonwealth. Mr. Chairman, I yield for now. Thank you.
Representative Lizama.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Ms. Benavente, Madam Secretary, I experienced your workload. I used to be in charge of the elite when we used to have the immigration, and we used to process thousands and thousands of applications, and we received those kind of calls too as well. What I just want to ask you, just to clarify, you do have direct deposit, and you said if the number is incorrect, the account number is incorrect, the check or the deposit money for that individual is returned back to you. And you have a second chance to redeposit that to the bank, is that correct?
No, Representative Lizama, the second time, if it's rejected, will be changed to a paper check according to the bank due to NACHA regulations. I don't know what that acronym stands for, I apologize, but if it's rejected once, the bank will say no more direct deposit. This next time, the PUA applicant will receive a paper check from finance.
Thank you for clarification. I guess I heal for now, but before that, once again, I want to appreciate for all the things that you do. Like I said, you know, I was in a position before, and I received calls just like you. This is during our immigration, and it was frustrating, but I was glad that I was put in there by the FBI. I want you to know that. So I was tougher because I was under the federal. Well, thank you. I heal back.
Thank you, Rep. Lizama. I also want to thank Rep. Camacho for pro-teming the discussion while I take care of something real quick. Madam Secretary, I'd like to kind of touch back in regards to a question that Repetibus, it was actually a question I had, but he beat me to it. In regards to, you know, these issues with, in regards to the definition of qualified aliens, has your office reached out to the delegate, or in regards to clarifying this matter in regards to C11, C9s, and their eligibility in regards to PUA? I know that I think we're the only state or territory that kind of falls under this distinction, where we have these statuses and permit holders in the U.S. I just want to see if that kind of was brought up to your discussions, with the Labor Department during this time.
Chairman Castro, is your question, has the Department of Labor reached out to Delegate Khalili Saban regarding the eligibility of certain qualified aliens?
Okay, whether to the delegate or whether to the Labor Department itself.
The U.S. Labor Department?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, of course, we have. I'll let our administrative hearing officer touch a little bit on the eligible qualified aliens so that you're aware. Jackie.
Proceed, madam.
So the definition of a qualified alien is listed in our benefits handbook, but I'm going to state it now for the record. It is an alien admitted for permanent residence under the Immigration and Nationality Act. It is an alien granted asylum under Section 208 of the Immigration and Nationality Act, a refugee admitted to the U.S. under Section 207 of the same act, an alien paroled into the U.S. under Section 212 of the same act for at least 1 year, an alien whose deportation is being withheld under Section 243, an alien granted conditional entry pursuant to Section 203, and an alien who is a Cuban or Haitian entrant as defined by 501E of the Refugee Education Assistance Act, and an alien who has been battered or subjected to the extreme cruelty of the U.S. or otherwise satisfies the requirements of Section 431 of the Act. This law is established, and we actually are required as a department distributing federal benefits to verify the alien status of anyone who is not a U.S. citizen before we distribute those benefits. In distributing benefits to anyone who falls under those qualified aliens, we have to utilize and partner with USCIS through their SAVE program. SAVE, I believe, stands for I don't have the acronym at this point, but it is their database of everyone's immigration status. So whenever an applicant indicates that they are not a U.S. citizen, we have to take their information and run it through the SAVE system. The SAVE system typically takes about 5 to 10 business days to give us a result. In there, the result will tell us whether or not, based on the information that we provide, whether or not they are a qualified alien. There are certain categories listed under the EAD, which is the Employment Authorization Document, or their card. And those categories that are qualified as a qualified alien are A02, A03, A04, A05, A08, A12, A16, C11, C19, and C33.
All right, proceed.
Leave it to a lawyer to have all of that ready. But that's another process that our PUA coordinators have to deal with regards to verifying non-U.S. citizens or qualified aliens or CW workers who demand that their case be appealed or reviewed and addressed. And so our BPC unit, the Benefit Payment Control Unit, was created in the very beginning of PUA. Guam does not have a BPC unit. Palau does not have a BPC unit. It is just a CNMI who opted for that. And we chose to do that because we really want to show the U.S. Department of Labor that we're taking every step to verify every applicant is eligible. The problem that we found out early on is that the message is anyone can apply for PUA, but not everyone will qualify. And that was a confusing message for some of our non-qualifying or non-eligible applicants. And so now we have to put it out there all the time. This is the list of the definition of a qualified alien. This is the definition of a U.S. citizen. And all of that has to be processed and checked individually by our PUA coordinators. Does that answer your question, Chairman?
To a degree, yes. And I guess if any of the members or any of our honorary members would like to, get some more elaboration, I'll open that to them. I'll recognize Rep. Blanco and then I'll recognize Rep. Sablan.
Thank you very much, Chairman Castro. Madam Secretary, the PUA, is it considered an earning?
No, it is a public benefit.
Okay. So, say I am a PUA recipient all the way to December, and then when I file my tax for FY20, would my PUA award be considered taxable?
It is, and in the application, all applicants are asked, do you want the tax deducted now at the onset, or will you pay the tax at the end of the year through the 1099 form? So Jackie just corrected me. PUA is a taxable income. Yes.
I see. Thank you. Thank you very much for that clarification, because that question will probably come up later on once folks start filing their taxes. Thank you very much. Chairman, I yield.
Thank you, Rep. Blanco. Rep. Sablan, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Going back to the question of qualified aliens, so for individuals who hold humanitarian parole status and have EADs, are they considered qualified aliens for PUA?
EADs is a large category that means employment authorization document. There are different categories within EADs that are considered qualified.
Right.
Those categories are the ones that I listed.
But
With respect-
specifically the CNMI humanitarian parolees who have applied for CNMI long-term resident status, are they considered qualified aliens under that definition?
With respect to that particular question, it's a little difficult because the claimant has to have actually had been granted that status while they were working or during the pandemic period and the weeks they are claiming for. So if they have just been granted that status, which relates to your question regarding C09, which is a pending changes in their application, they technically will not qualify if they are claiming weeks that they were not already that status.
Right, but we have a population of people with parole status that was renewed from year to year since like 2015. At least, maybe even earlier. So those people should be qualified then.
That's correct.
Okay.
It really depends on what their category is listed under the EAD cards. So
Okay.
that is the document that we look for when we are either doing our reviews or in my appeals. We look for that specific evidence that shows I am this status, I am that status, versus someone just telling me, oh, I'm an EAD.
Right.
And they
Right.
can't be in the process of getting an EAD. They have to be a qualified EAD holder already. Many
Okay.
of the applicants that come to us say, oh, I'm processing it, here's my receipt. That does not qualify them for the PUA benefit.
And then for those individuals, I mean, as you know, we don't recognize asylum here, but we do have individuals whose removal has been withheld. And so those individuals, if they have EADs and withholding of removal, some kind of documentation, then they should also be eligible for PUA.
So for an alien with deportation or removal being withheld, the evidence that we look for to qualify as a qualified alien is the INS form 1688B, the INS form 1766, and or an order from an immigration judge that says that they are that status and are undergoing those proceedings. And on that INS form, keep in mind that it also has to annotate that it's been approved for that status. It's not just they've applied for that status. So it has to have been annotated somewhere on there by USCIS or the reviewing officer that they've actually gotten that status.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. My next question has to do with these issues that we were discussing earlier about the confusion that arose when some applicants applied through Guam or somehow got Gov Guam to process their payments, and then their bank accounts have since been frozen. Have any of those issues been addressed with any of our applicants? And if not, you know, what does it take to unfreeze these accounts and resume payments for these individuals?
In the last 2 weeks, we've had conference calls with the Bank of Guam, the CNMI Department of Finance, the Department of Guam Labor, and the Department of Guam Administration. And so we've worked out a system where we are resolving the issues where bank accounts have been frozen because an applicant was paid by mistake by Guam Department of Labor or Guam PUA. So those issues are being addressed now. Lessons learned again.
Sure. Is there a timeline, though, for that you can speak to at this time in terms of when these accounts could be unfrozen and when they could start getting
I
their
wish I could
payments?
say, Representative Sablan, for my timeline, I'd like to have it done tomorrow. But because of banking regulations, government regulations, federal regulations, these things take time. We are doing our best to resolve them as quickly as possible.
About how many people would you say are affected by this issue?
Which issue?
This issue of bank accounts being frozen and payments being mistakenly processed out of Guam?
I would say about 30.
30. Okay.
And just to clarify, the bank accounts being frozen, it is not their entire bank account. It is only the amount that was processed incorrectly.
Okay.
And if in cases where someone has stated their entire bank account has been frozen, it's because those are the only PUA funds left.
Okay. Thank you. Hopefully those issues will get resolved soon. And then for our Rota and Tinian constituents, so we are also hearing concerns that they bring their issues, their questions, any sort of application problems that they're having to the labor staff on Rota and Tinian, but that the staff there don't have access to the online portals and that they're not getting any responses from Saipan. Could you speak to how service for our neighbor islands could be improved so that residents there could get the answers that they need?
Understandably, our constituents, our PUA applicants on Tinian and Rota are as frustrated as I am with how quickly or not quickly their applications are being processed. But again, the majority of the time, it is the applicant who has not submitted the correct documents, who has not submitted complete IDs, check stubs, and so forth. We do have PUA coordinators on both islands, and we do have dedicated PUA coordinators on Saipan addressing only Tinian and Rota applications, and so.
Okay, but is there a way to address access to the online portal on Rota and Tinian?
We've decided that same thing as DUA, we had only access at PUA headquarters to protect the integrity of the program. There's just too much of a risk of fraudulent claims or the system being hacked if the application was going to be processed in several parts of the CNMI, and not just one area.
But you're saying here on Saipan you have dedicated staff that only address Rota and Tinian issues that they receive from those offices?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How many people are doing that for Rota and Tinian?
3 or 4 at a time.
Okay. And then I really just had a couple more questions, and then I'm done. Yes, I know we're running a little long on time. Did labor furlough any employees?
Of course we did. All government agencies furloughed employees. Are we here to talk about furlough, or are we here to talk about PUA?
We're here to talk about both, actually. So the question that I was going to get to on the furlough issue, Madam Secretary, is how many staff have been furloughed, and then have any of them been called back to assist with PUA?
8 staff were furloughed. None of them have been called back to assist with PUA.
Huh. May I ask why not?
Do you know why staff were furloughed, Representative Sablan?
Well, I understand that you received additional money to implement this program.
Chairman Castro, are we here to talk about the furlough of the CNMI Department of Labor employees, or are we here to talk about the PUA program?
Mr. Chairman, this is relevant to PUA implementation. I'm not sure where the hostility is coming from. The question has been about implementation of this program. And if you're having staffing issues, if you had people who are experienced with DUA implementation who have been furloughed, and if there's money to recall them so they can assist, I guess the question is just why not?
I never said I had staffing issues.
If I can just add, a lot of the staff that were furloughed had ongoing issues, personnel issues, and those are the reasons partially why they were not recalled. But because of the confidentiality of those personnel issues, and since we're having this broadcasted online, we don't want to go into the details. But there were issues.
I'm not asking for details on personnel issues. So the question then is if you furloughed employees and you had additional funding to beef up your staff to implement this program, your call then is not to hire anybody back who's been recalled. But it's not for lack of funding, it's for these performance issues then.
I apologize for my so-called hostility. I'm a little bit hungry. The question is, have I decided to call back furloughed employees? Have I decided? The reason we furloughed employees, number one, was the budget. As you remember, back in December, January, February, we were encountering issues in the CNMI with regards to government revenues. There were things happening in Hong Kong, protests. There were things happening on a global level that had affected the CNMI. I am just not prepared to answer your question, Representative Sablan, with regards to the furlough employees. And as Ms. Nicolas said, there are some issues, HR issues, not just budgetary issues, but there were reasons for these employees being furloughed, in which were all clarified with our Office of Personnel Management. I see where you're going with this, and I really don't I'm not comfortable with the direction we're going. I'm not being hostile, I'm hungry. So forgive me for my so-called hostility. Chairman Castro, I ask if you have any more questions. Please let me know regarding PUA. Other than that, I would like to address Ms. Representative Sablan's questions about furlough in another venue or another time.
Okay. I do know that in regards to the letter that was sent as a regard, it was in regards to questions regarding PUA.
Yeah, and if I may, Mr. Chairman, my question regarding furlough was really relevant and really specific to how this affects PUA implementation. And so we don't have to belabor this point. I accept the Secretary's apology. I understand that she's hungry. I think we all are. My final question is, Madam Secretary, if you would consider designating a liaison to address legislative inquiries, I think what I have in mind is more along the lines of how U.S. congressional offices deal with federal agencies and departments. There are always individuals assigned to handle congressional inquiries, and it just helps move the process along. It helps catch constituents who may be falling through the cracks, and I think all of us have experienced some frustration getting through to the call lines, the emails. I know I myself have a number of emails that have gone unanswered and phone calls that have not been returned, and so is that something that you would consider, designating a legislative liaison to handle inquiries from this body and improve the lines of communication with your department?
Which legislative liaison, congressional, are you talking about?
To handle casework, really. So similar to how the congressional offices have legislative liaisons that they deal with at the different federal offices, it would really help in this case where you have thousands and thousands of applicants, hundreds of people that you deal with every day. They often come to our offices as a last resort. And when we're not able to get through on the phone lines, when we're not able to get responses by email, it would help to have a point person that could handle legislative inquiries on behalf of constituents to do casework and make sure that people aren't falling through the cracks.
Let me get this straight. You're asking me to appoint someone to deal with just this legislature on issues regarding pool applicants?
When we get constituent inquiries, is there a point
What makes
person?
the pool applicants that are coming to you any different than the pool applicants who are standing in line at the pool
I'm
office?
not saying,
So
I'm not
therefore,
saying,
I
I'm
don't
not
want to give
saying.
any favorable treatment to anyone who comes to this body.
I am not
They
saying.
all are treated the same, whether they come to you
Madam
or they
Secretary,
come to
Mr.
me.
Chairman,
Point
would
of
you
order,
please
point of
restore
order,
some
Mr.
decorum
Chairman.
here?
Order.
Can we take a break?
No, we can finish up soon. I don't know where this hostility is coming
Chairman,
from, Ms.
break, please.
Secretary.
Can we go
take
on
a break?
recess? Thank you.
Recess?
Call a short recess.
I don't think we need a recess.
Legislative question.
We could just answer the question. I do object to the implication that I'm asking for favorable treatment, Ms. Secretary. That is not at all what I'm suggesting.
Mr. Chairman, Madam Secretary is our guest. Let's take a break.
Recess has been go.
We're not on an oversight session.
Members, we will begin within the next few minutes. So, yeah, we will be entertaining new business after we excuse the secretary. All right, members, let's proceed back in. I do know we have one other. We do have one other member who stands ready to ask any questions in regards to uh, the matter at hand with the secretary in regards to the questions we might have in regards to PUA. So we got four members here. So we got our quorum back. We now rise back out of recess. I do know that the last question we had was via Rep. Sablan, and at this point in time, you still have the floor. After you, the chair will recognize Rep. Camacho for his second round.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome back, Madam Secretary and Ms. Nicolas. Hopefully we've all had a chance to cool off. Just my last question, I wanted to clarify that and make it very absolutely abundantly clear that in suggesting or requesting a legislative liaison to handle constituent inquiries, to handle casework, I am not at all suggesting that favorable treatment be provided to anybody. What I had in mind as a former congressional caseworker myself was that we would have designated points of contact to reach out to agencies on behalf of constituents to inquire about the status of their cases, nothing more, not to put pressure or on how a case should be adjudicated in one way or another, but also, just to recognize the reality that sometimes people fall through the cracks or have language issues or have trouble communicating with government departments or whatever it might be. And when they come to legislators, it's often because they're at their wits' end and because they do need some help of some sort. And that's all I was asking. And I think we've addressed this enough, more than enough. And if that's something that you could consider in the future, Madam Secretary, I think that would help tremendously to improve service, improve communications between our offices and yours, and also relieve some of the pressure on your time as well. So we're not constantly calling you to the legislature to answer questions. Thank you, and that's all. I yield.
Thank you, Rep. Sablan. Madam Secretary.
I just want to say thank you, Representative Sablan. I think we're all in agreement that we all want the same things, get these PUA benefits out to people and help them as quickly as possible, as correctly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. The floor recognizes Rep. Camacho for his second round.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Madam Secretary and your staff, thanks again for your presence here this morning. I just want to follow up on a question I asked earlier. I don't know if I got a response or if I blundered. But the question is, I know that the cutoff deadline for the PUA you said was in December 2020.
December 31st, the PUA program will expire. The last day to file a PUA application will be the week ending December 27.
Okay, so that's the question. I believe that's where my question lies. Is for those I know, 'cause I know some applicants have received their PUA since March or June or whatever month it was. So for those that are waiting or pending approval, do start receiving their PUA checks. Does that extend past 2020 or the December 31st deadline? Or?
And then again, Chairman, that depends on their unemployment status.
Okay, so say they were unemployed for 2 months and they were approved. Do they get paid a retroactive, or so they do get a retroactive?
Yes.
Okay, that answers my question. Thanks again, Madam Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Rep. Camacho. Any further questions from the members for the second round? Any from our honorary members in attendance? Okay, Madam Secretary. Sorry. Recognize Rep. Itibus.
Thank you, Madam. I'm sorry, Chairman. Madam Vicky, this relates to the question that Chairman Camacho just asked. So, an individual is eligible for the PUA, then got that lump sum. After receiving that lump sum, got a letter from the employer saying that the employee already got terminated. So what would happen to that employee? He can't apply for PUA anymore?
Of course he can. He can continue applying for PUA benefits, provided he provides the documentation, the employer letter, and again, it also depends on his prior earnings.
As long as he provide that letter from the employer that he's been terminated, submitted in, then he's to be eligible.
Yes, letter and also check stubs.
Okay, all right, okay. Thank you for that clarification. Ms. Jackie, I did ask you when I go over there, but just for the record, those A02 and those C that you mentioned, when I was just talking to you, you said that you did mention the C11, they're eligible for the PUA, while C09 is not eligible. Is there, where can I refer these people to when it comes to this C11 and C9? Because, I've been getting call from this and seems like they're not aware. And of course, myself too, I'm not sure. So is there a website that they can be, or I can refer them to?
USCIS publishes an EAD catalog, which is a listing of the different EAD statuses and what it means. So the website or the document that I use is from the USCIS website. And if you come down to section C09 with regards to the EAD code, they categorize that as an EAD whose employment is granted based on an adjustment in status applicant. So practically speaking, this would be a CW who recently got married, who is applying for either permanent residence or another status. In the meantime, they are awarded an EAD based on C09 because they're waiting for their application to be granted. However, unfortunately, C09 is not a qualified alien.
Okay, thank you very much. I got that the website already. I will refer some others if they have questions. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Repetibus. Prior to, my apologies for not recognizing you earlier. Madam Secretary, I just wanted to kind of ask if any of the congregates that you've dealt with in regards to PUA applications have mentioned this to you. So we've had we've heard situations, at least my office has heard situations where they've already went through the process with labor and everything went through, and they're still waiting on those, still waiting on payments. And I guess that they're just waiting on a call from finance. How often, in regards to getting their checks, how many have those complaints that have been similar to what I just mentioned have come back to your office? Because I know like it's not necessarily a fault on your departments, and because you scored them away already. It's in regards to having their payments come to them. That's I guess what I'm trying to ask.
So Chairman, just to clarify, PUA applicants will not receive a call from finance
Okay.
for PUA benefits. They're either mailed a check or they will receive direct deposit because their account numbers are all correct or addresses are correct. In the beginning, when PUA first opened up, we had thousands of inquiries. Where is my PUA application? Now, 90 days into the program, the most common question is, when am I going to get the weekly benefits? Many of the applicants have already received initial claims benefits, and now they are waiting for weekly claims. And then we look back at their application. For the most part, an applicant will have filled out an application last week, and they expect it this week, and that's just not how it works. It takes time again to review the documents, confirm the status of each and every applicant, and it takes 7 to 10 working days after they have received a notice of approval, and they can also appeal if they have received a notice of denial.
Okay. Thank you. I guess that clarifies it for me. And I guess the last question I have is, our office has received a few. Trying to see what's the proper term to use here. Has received a few calls when the department has done outreach at, say, places like the multi-purpose center. They were told that when it came time to making copies, they were asked to do it someplace else because the office didn't provide that service. I kind of wanted to see if that's still the case, or has the department been assisting?
We have been assisting with paper copies since the beginning. We brought our copy machines to every outreach. We still make copies for all of our applicants at the headquarters, and we are not charging our pool applicants for any copies.
Okay, because I do know that I know that I know that Carolinian Affairs and even like say my office has kind of assisted in regards to that matter. So that way, at least it helps to streamline the process when they get to your side of the hill. So I just wanted to make sure, because I know that you did mention in the beginning of this discussion that you have been trying your best to upgrade and enhance the customer service part of the process. So I just wanted to make sure on that. Any further questions from both our committee members and our honorary members prior to closing Q&A? I guess the members are ready at this time. Madam Secretary, I do want to leave you with the opportunity to make some closing statements prior to your excusal this afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I want to thank the staff who provided this delicious soup. I feel a lot better. Also want to thank the members of the committee for the questions. These are questions that are not new to me, but the PUA program is new. The PUA program has never been implemented in the CNMI. Let's not wait for another epidemic or pandemic to come to a consensus on how we can help our people when crises hit the economy, hit the islands. And I really agree with Representative Saipan when we say we all have to work together. We're all coming from the same place. I agree with all of you that these questions were because of constituents calling, constantly asking. And only thing I can say is promise you that we continue to do our best. Our staff continues to work hard. And we welcome any inquiry from any of the members at any time. And thank you for all of your concerns and your assistance all through this last 90 days. And let's work together on maybe getting some legislation regarding an unemployment insurance program in the CNMI. Looking forward. We are going to need help with training our people on new skills, new jobs, a new economy, what they say, the new normal. It hasn't been easy, but I am very grateful to Jackie and all the DOE directors who have stood by me from day one, and especially the staff. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the FF&A.
Thank you. I also want to, on behalf of the FFA committee, as well as our honorary members that sat with us throughout these last several minutes, I'd like to thank Madam Secretary, yourself, as well as Jackie, for being with us here this morning. I do know that with each question that was answered, I know there might also be questions that come here and there. And I do echo the sentiments of the members here that communication is key. So I like to ask for, as chairman of this committee, as well as a member of the House, to please have your staff maintain those channels of communication. So if anything comes our way that we need an address from you, it can be addressed in an accurate and expeditious manner. But I thank you for taking time out of your schedule. I know this is keeping your department busy as well as yourself. So I'd like to thank you for taking time out of your schedule to be with us here. At this point in time, Madam Secretary and Jackie, you're hereby excused. We'll call a little bit of a short recess to bid adieu to the Secretary. Members, we do have one pending item on the agenda, so we'll go ahead and proceed with that. Today is just a formality, and then we'll proceed with the rest of the agenda. Okay, so we got 4 here, so that's a quorum. So just gonna wait on Rep. Camacho and Rep. Blanco to make their way back into the chamber. Okay. Okay, we're back out of recess. That was I guess in regards to how strong our appetites were, that was a marathon. Thank you very much for the questions that both us as members, as well as our honorary members, posed or presented to the Labor Secretary. I hope that can help us in regards to the matter that we had discussed with her, as well as the representatives of her department. We're back into our order of business, and I thank your patience, members, in allowing for miscellaneous to be pushed up to the calendar. Now we're actually was supposed to start off today's meeting, which is new business, and that's the adoption or the discussion of adopting House Joint Resolution 21-08 HS1, which includes amendments that were presented to this body at our last meeting, which, if I'm not mistaken, from the author who's here with us this afternoon, has amendments that came after discussions with the administration. So just to reiterate, the changes that were made uh, to this House substitute. It changed the title from requesting that the Honorable Governor oppose any increase in destructive military training and testing in the Northern Marianas to support the Honorable Governor Ralph D. Lunguero Torres in his continued efforts to protect the CNMI from military activities that harm human health, the environment, culture, and quality of life in the Marianas. There has been new literature that was added based off of those discussions, and I believe it's the first paragraph of the resolution itself, which of course is based off of the movers' discussions with the governor and his representatives. So I am aware that these did come from those consultations, and during our last meeting, we we decided to retract the previous motion to adopt today due to the fact that we bypassed the 72-hour window. So I'd like to see, I'm going to open discussion on this to see if we shall go ahead with adopting it, or if there's any further discussion we need to add with the matter at hand. Okay, the members are ready. Rep. Babalta, I'll give you this last opportunity as an honorary observer to state your piece before we move with voting.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, members. Again, I and the members of OCW 670 are grateful for all of your efforts in regards to this resolution. I believe it is coming at a timely event, as the 9th District Court ruled that bombings on Rota and Tinian are not necessary. So I look forward to the committee report, and again, thank you and your team, Chairman, for strengthening the report so that we can send that over to the Senate. I yield. Thank you.
Thank you, Babalta. So I guess we heard already before we stated, before we gave the floor to Rep. Babalta. So at this point in time, the chair will now entertain a motion to adopt House Joint Resolution 21-08 HS1 in the current form presented to us. It's been moved and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. House Joint Resolution 21-8 HS1 is adopted by the committee. Thank you very much, members, for that. That actually takes care of most of our order of business. Going down to announcements, since we already took care of miscellaneous.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, just also under miscellaneous and related to this resolution,
Okay.
may I just ask when the committee report will be ready? What's our timeline on that?
Okay, so I know that the thing that was delaying it was the transcribing of public comments. That's already been done. So all it is just a matter of just compiling everything, Madam Clerk. So those are all squared away. So I believe with that, as well as this current form that we just adopted, I hope we can have the committee report compiled and ready for signature as soon as possible. Moving down, or anything further under miscellaneous? Okay, moving on to announcements. I know that I know we made a decision on one particular bill, but we do have one other bill that was transferred over to, or that was referred to our chambers, which is House Bill 21-122. In case members you're familiar, this is the bill that would require the POW MIA flag to be displayed wherever the American flag is displayed as well. I know if I'm not mistaken, this is already governed under federal law. It is a statute that was implemented not too long ago. So this is the Vice Speaker's bill. So primarily, it's to allow for that particular banner to be displayed with the American flag. So I will be calling a meeting for further discussion on that down the line. So I will keep you guys informed when that meeting will be. Thank you very much, members. Anything further on our announcements? Okay, ready? At this point in time, the floor will now entertain a motion for item 7 on our order of business, which is adjournment. It's been moved and seconded. Further discussion on the motion? Okay. All those in favor of the motion say aye. All those opposed say nay. At 12:58 legislative time, this meeting of the Committee on Federal and Foreign Affairs is hereby adjourned. In case you guys are hungry, there's some soup in the conference room.